Hey guys, tonight we drift through the steam of centuries to explore how something as simple as taking a bath became a sacred ritual in Japan. Imagine yourself standing barefoot on smooth, cool stones. You hear the soft bubbling of a nearby spring, feel the wood, slat walls radiate with ancient warmth. Steam rises like ghostly fingers through the pine, scented air. You're in an onsen village, nestled deep in Japan's forested mountains, during a time when samurai still roamed and hot springs weren't just for relaxation, but for purification, healing, and even diplomacy. You probably won't survive this if you show up wearing your swim trunks or forget to rinse before entering the bath. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your location and what time it is where you're watching. I love seeing how far this sleepy journey travels. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You approach the entrance of the bathhouse. A low, weather-worn building with cedar walls, quietly exhaling steam through slatted vents. The wooden sign above the door creaks as it swings in the wind, carved with old kanji Tampensei Yumoto, origin of hot water. A white Norin curtain sways gently at the entrance, its edges stained with time, separating the steamy interior from the crisp mountain air. Inside, everything smells faintly of minerals, like warm stones after rain. Sandals come off at the Jenkin threshold, of course, and you step onto smooth wooden floors, worn glossy from centuries of bare feet. This isn't just bathing. It's a practice as old as Japan itself, a ritual that ties body and spirit to the land. During the early centuries of Japanese history, hot springs weren't mere conveniences. They were sacred sites, whispered to be the breath of kami, Shinto gods, rising from the earth. Bathing in them was less about hygiene and more about ritual cleansing, a way to purify yourself before entering a shrine or participating in a festival. That's why the etiquette runs so deep. You weren't just being polite. You were preparing yourself for the divine. You watch a local villager kneel near the edge of the bath, silently scooping water into a wooden ladle. He pours it gently over his head, eyes closed, murmuring a quiet prayer. There's no sign, no reminder needed, just instinctual reverence. You start to realize the rules of onsen etiquette weren't invented overnight. They soaked slowly into the culture, like minerals into skin. Historians still argue whether the very first baths were public or private, were they more communal or priestly. But one thing is clear, by the time the Japanese began recording history during the Nara period, hot spring bathing was already a thing. We're talking 8th century here, when monks and pilgrims trekked through forests to cleanse their bodies before approaching Buddhist temples. Some of Japan's oldest onsen, like Dogo Onsen in Shikoku, claim a history over 1,000 years long. Legend has it that even wounded herons once dipped their legs into the mineral, rich pools to heal. Basically the avian version of Yelp reviews. That's how treasured these places were. And here's a fringe tidbit for you. In some areas, the locals believed each spring had a specific personality. One might cure leg pain, another heartbreak. People would walk for days to sit in the right water. No wonder even warlords paused their battles to bathe. There's something disarmingly quiet about the place. No music, no phones, just the echo of water dripping from wooden eaves and the soft rustle of linen as someone slips into the pool. And you, awkwardly naked, towel clutched like a security blanket, are part of this rhythm now. You rinse off naturally. You knew better than to cannonball in. The concept of kakyu, pouring water over your body before entering the communal bath, is ancient, but absolutely non-negotiable. Even back then, no one wanted to stew in your day's grime. You step slowly into the water. The heat grabs you first, a full-bodied warmth that makes your shoulders drop and your thoughts slow down. The minerals tingle against your skin. Sulfur, iron, salt, and your legs float a little as you settle in. Outside the bathhouse, Nestled in tall cedars, the rest of the village glows faintly with lanterns. Families still use the springs at night, winding down after a day of farming, weaving, or blacksmithing. Children's laughter sometimes filters through the wood, paneled walls, and the occasional shout as someone dares a snow, angel plunge before running back inside. There's a peaceful democracy to it. In the bath, everyone's the same. Farmers soak beside scholars, old men beside traveling monks. No one's hiding anything. Literally, nakedness levels the field in more ways than one. And even if you don't speak the language, you'll quickly learn the subtle gestures of nodding acknowledgement, of not splashing, of not turning the bath into a podcast discussion panel. The strangest part, it all feels familiar. Not just because you've watched a few travel vlogs, but because humans have always craved this. Warmth, quiet, a place to exhale everything you didn't even know you were carrying. And somehow, across centuries, in a world that's sprinted towards speed and screens, these etiquette rituals, rinse first, don't bring soap into the tub, towel stays out, have stayed exactly the same. Your eyes close, the water ripples softly around your shoulders. Somewhere, a cicada buzzes, a curtain flutters, and a thought sneaks in with the steam. This might be the quietest rebellion you've ever participated in. You stretch beneath the water, toes brushing the smooth rocks beneath the bath floor, and drift backward, way back into Japan's Nara period, around the 8th century. This is the era when Japan first begins shaping itself with codified religion, statecraft, and yes, an increasing obsession with clean bodies and cleaner souls. The capital has just moved to Nara, where Buddhist temples rise like forested islands in a sea of newly mapped streets. And guess what? Bathing isn't just approved. It's built right into the civic plan. You trudge through a shaded walkway toward one of the earliest government-supported bathing halls, attached not to a fancy villa, but a temple. Specifically, a Buddhist temple known as Teodaiji, home to that colossal bronze Buddha who honestly looks like he's about to sneeze in slow motion. Here, bathing is charity. Monks offer free baths to the sick, the poor, and the dusty travelers who arrive from all corners of the archipelago. You join the line. It's quiet, but not solemn. Some folks chat. Some stare forward with their mouths open, lost in the steam. You're handed a wooden token, which grants you not only entry to the bath, but also a dab of herbal balm, if you're lucky. That's right. This isn't just a dunk and dry situation. These temples see cleanliness as both a physical and moral necessity. A clean body means a clean mind, ready for prayer, for learning, for death even. It's almost poetic. Here's your mainstream historical fact emperor, Shimo. Yes, the same guy who made Buddhism the state religion, ordered that public baths be built across the empire. We're talking royal mandate of hygiene, folks. Not because he was worried about BO, but because in Buddhism, compassion begins with action. Providing a warm bath, that was mercy incarnate. But naturally, quirks evolve. For example, temple baths didn't just include soaking tubs. They often came with curious sweat rooms, early ancestors of saunas, where people sat in wooden chambers filled with steam piped from the spring below to encourage sweating, and arguably to make people marinate in their enlightenment. Monks would bang a gong at intervals, something between a timer and a spiritual reminder. Imagine a meditation session with a drum machine. You follow the flow of people through a side chamber, where a monk bows slightly and gestures toward a pool the color of diluted jade. Around it, carved wooden beams are darkened by centuries of steam. You wash first, always. The etiquette is taught not with signs, but with gentle glances. Someone hands you a ladle before you can even reach for the water. One scoop over the head, then shoulders, chest, legs. It's an elegant choreography. Historians still argue whether these temple baths were truly open to everyone, or whether social class still snuck in through the back door. Did the peasant farmers and wandering ascetics get the same steaming pool as visiting nobility, or were there sections, screens, Vaguely enforced cues. The scrolls are unclear. But what is clear is the sense of peace. Even back then, bathing was more than just function. It was transformation. As you lower yourself into the water, the sounds of the world hush. You feel it. Skin prickling, muscles loosening, mind quieting. The water isn't just washing you, it's dissolving you bit by bit until only stillness remains. A fringe tidbit for you. Some Nara-era bathhouses used natural additives believed to clean spiritually as well as physically. Things like powdered pearls, expensive, naturally, crushed tree bark, or even, brace yourself, fermented rice paste. Yes, you're basically soaking in slightly alcoholic porridge. And yes, it smells like a sour-sake dream. You catch sight of another bather. An older man with a long beard and a tiny carved Buddha figure hanging from a cord around his neck. He notices your gaze and smiles faintly, then closes his eyes, palms up, floating like a leaf in the steam. There's no small talk, no awkward introductions. In here, etiquette means quiet presence. Don't splash. Don't stare. And whatever you do, don't dunk your towel in the water. Even now, that little rule is gospel. The bath's temperature hovers just below scalding. You shift slowly, giving your body time to adapt. And wonder, how did these customs stick around for over 1,000 years? It wasn't through enforcement. No one finds you for using soap in the bath eye well. Not usually. It's absorbed through culture, like miso in broth. You grow up watching others, absorbing not just the rules but the rhythm. You dry off with a thin, rough towel that feels like linen made of stubborn clouds. The drying room is a wide platform of woven mats where people sit and chat softly while drinking barley tea. A child giggles as an elderly woman ties her kimono with practiced grace. You sip the tea. Nutty, slightly bitter. And watch steam rise from your skin like it's leaving your soul. This isn't luxury. This isn't tourism. This is daily life. As essential as food or sleep. And maybe that's the secret. The etiquette isn't separate from the bath. It's part of the immersion. You don't think about following rules. You just move slowly, kindly, attentively, because everyone else does too. Outside, dusk deepens. The temple bell tolls in the distance, echoing like a slow heartbeat across the tiled rooftops of Nara. You walk home barefoot, skin still damp, wrapped in that perfect, sleepy warmth that only comes from mineral water and not talking to anyone for an hour. You probably still smell faintly of rice paste, but hey, nobody's perfect. You don't step into the next era, you glide, like a silken sleeve brushing past paper walls. Welcome to the Heian period. Everything is slower now, softer, and more layered than a parfait in Kyoto. The aristocracy reigns, cloistered in palatial compounds of winding corridors and perfumed sleeves. And as you might expect from a society that communicates in poetry and falls in love via folded fan gestures, bathing becomes an act of theatrical refinement. You kneel on the polished floor of a noble's private residence somewhere in the capital that will later become Kyoto. Outside, the garden's koi are probably rehearsing synchronized swimming. Inside, attendants in layered silk kimonos prepare a bath, not with urgency, but with grace. Hot water is carried in lacquered buckets and poured into a deep wooden tub, carved from fragrant hinoki cypress. Steam spirals upward like calligraphy strokes into the air. You can already tell bathing here is performance. And you, friend, are extremely underdressed. Heian-era baths aren't for crowds. This is a solo affair, or at most, a very small audience of ladies in waiting adjusting the room's incense and offering you flour, petal water to dab behind your ears. It's here that etiquette begins to get, shall we say, curated. We're no longer just scrubbing off mud. Now we're cultivating aroma, ambience, and the kind of personal hygiene that doubles as courtly virtue. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Aristocrats of the Heian court bathed frequently, often every few days, which for the 9th century was basically obsessive. Diaries and poems from the period mention bathing as part of seasonal rituals, love affairs, and even mourning. Cleanliness became associated with spiritual and aesthetic purity, a reflection of one's inner refinement. Of course, they didn't bathe quite like we imagine today. Full immersion in water was rare. Instead, washing was done with warm cloths, repeated pours, and delicate perfumes applied afterward. Think spa day minus the Enya soundtrack, and naturally, bathwater could be scented with yuzu citrus, camellia petals, or if you were really feeling fancy, powdered clove wrapped in silk sachets. You lower yourself into the tub, finally allowed, and immediately notice the difference. This isn't about temperature. It's about fragrance, atmosphere, and posture. You're not here to loosen up sore muscles. You're here to become a living poem. Historians still argue whether Heian etiquette was strictly codified or more like a social dance, learned by watching and mimicking rather than reading a scroll titled 10 Commandments of Bath Conduct. But we do know this: being clean, being elegant, and being non-disruptive were as essential as breathing. If your towel slapped water onto a scroll, that's a social death sentence. If you left behind an unsightly puddle on the tatami, you might as well renounce your poetry license. Quirky fringe fact time: some Heian nobles used live crickets in bamboo cages as part of their bath ambience. Yes, literal chirping soundtracks to help them relax. Imagine trying to meditate while a small insect symphony buzzes approvingly in the corner. You might laugh, but admit it, you try it once. You reach for a towel, thin as rice paper, and gently press it to your skin without rubbing. That would be uncouth. You must blot, not scrub. The water, the scent, even your droplets are meant to disappear silently, respectfully. This is not a space for noise, splashing, or chatting about rice tax policy. Outside the bathing chamber, a servant offers you plum wine in a porcelain cup, so thin it might vanish if you breathe wrong. You sip, and your newly perfumed body exudes the faint smell of yuzu and cedar. Someone compliments your subtle aroma. You've made it. But here's the thing: while this all seems impossibly fragile, the core etiquette, rinse before soaking, don't contaminate shared water, move with intention, was already taking root. The elite may have turned it into performance art, but the ideas were rippling outward into common practice. You step through a bamboo corridor lit with oil lamps, your damp sleeves brushing past silk-screen doors. In the garden, frogs croak politely, and the moon drips silver light across a pond rimmed in iris blossoms. You feel clean, not just in your skin, but in your presence, like you've been gently reset. Back in your sleeping quarters, you lie on a futon smelling faintly of hinoki and incense, and realize something strange. The more luxurious the bath, the stricter the manners. And somehow, that makes it better. The ritual isn't a burden, it's a scaffold. It holds up the experience like a frame around a masterpiece. You whisper a thanks to the unseen servants, the gods of steam, and maybe even the cricket still chirping somewhere in a bamboo cage outside. Your eyelids get heavy, the silence deepens. Don't worry, you remembered not to splash. You blink, and the quiet elegance of the Heian court dissolves like steam on a mirror. The world tightens. Castles rise. Swords glint. Welcome to the Kamakura period, where the poetry's still around, sure, but now it wears armor. The samurai class has arrived, and while they might not write haiku about their shampoo, they absolutely respect a good soak. You find yourself on the outskirts of a military encampment, the air thick with the smell of pine smoke, wet leather, and cooked rice. Behind the lines of stabled horses and half-assembled tents, a natural hot spring steams gently, protected by a wooden fence and a handful of guards. It's not fancy, more like a glorified muddy pit with ambition, but it's sacred. Because even warriors, especially warriors, need a place to unravel. You trudge toward the spring, sword left respectfully at the gate. Yes, etiquette even applies to katana. Armor off, kimono on. You rinse in the cold stream flowing beside the bath, trying not to shiver, and slide into the steaming water. Instantly, it hits you. That muscle. Deep relief. That sense of everything exhaling all at once. Even the hardest men melt a little here. Here's your mainstream historical fact. During the Kamakura period, 1185–1333, the newly dominant samurai class embraced Buddhist ideals of simplicity, humility, and discipline. Bathing, already a spiritual and cultural practice, was woven into their routines. Not just to clean up after training or combat, but to practice mindfulness, self, restraint, and purification. And here's where things get interesting. You're sitting in a hot spring with two other men. One's a grizzled veteran with half an eyebrow and a laugh that sounds like a rusty hinge. The other's a teenage apprentice still sore from his first archery drills. Nobody talks. Nobody needs to. In the water, everyone's rank is erased. For a moment, you're just human beings, soaking bones and calming breath. Etiquette here is more practical than poetic. You don't splash because it wastes heat. You don't talk loudly because others are meditating. You certainly don't enter without rinsing because everyone just spent the day rolling in mud and horse sweat. It's not fussy. It's functional. And yet, the reverence is real. Historians still argue whether samurai bathing habits were learned from Buddhist monasteries or adapted from older aristocratic customs, but evidence suggests bathhouses, both public and private, existed within military complexes. Some temples even had bath facilities built specifically for traveling warriors, a kind of spa meets pilgrimage. Fringe tidbit time, it's said that certain warrior clans believed soaking before battle brought not just clarity, but luck. Cleanliness wasn't just physical, it was karmic. One legendary general was known to bathe in near boiling water before each campaign, both to purify and to test his pain threshold. You can bet nobody complained about the water being too hot when he was around. You watch the steam rise. The older man beside you slowly submerges to his chin. Eyes closed, lips moving silently. Maybe a prayer, maybe a grocery list. The apprentice fidgets once, then sees your glance and stills. There's an unspoken awareness here. A presence. You begin to understand why this quiet has lasted centuries. No one brings soap. No one sings. The idea of playing music in this space would probably get you gently tackled. Even the way people sit. Spines straight, arms submerged, faces calm, is a form of etiquette. Not because someone told them to, but because this is how it's done. You learn by doing. You remember by observing. The bathhouse is a shed beside the spring. Little more than slats of cedar and a cloth partition for drying off. Inside, you wrap yourself in a coarse linen robe, steam still curling from your skin. Someone's boiling tea on a brazier. You accept a cup, squat near the warmth, and listen to the fire pop. You glance out toward the camp. Men are training again. Someone yells. A hawk circles overhead, and here you are, quiet in a robe, sipping tea, your fingers wrinkled and your shoulders soft. In a world full of armor and discipline, the bath is the one place no one wears a mask. It's almost funny, isn't it? For all the myths of samurai stoicism and hard-edged honor, their bath etiquette was deeply gentle. Don't disturb the peace. Don't bring the outside world in. And if someone else is already in the water, you wait. Because respect isn't something you shout about. It's something you show. As you leave, you nod politely to the guards by the entrance. They nod back. No words are exchanged. No need. You followed the rules, honored the space, and walked out just a little lighter. You don't smell like incense. You don't have flower petals stuck to your skin. But you've done it right. And in this age of warriors, that means everything. The air shifts again. Thicker now, damp with uncertainty and mildew. You squint as the scenery dulls. War is brewing across provinces. The economy's shaky. Bamboo walls are patched, not polished. Welcome to the Muromachi period, roughly the 14th to 16th century, where Japan is balancing on a blade edge. And so is its bathing culture. You enter a small-town bathhouse, if you can call it that. More of a communal hut with a sloped roof, sagging slightly under years of steam and snow. Inside, the scent isn't quite cedar anymore, it's earthier. Not awful. But let's just say it smells like people. Still, the water is warm, the ladle's intact, and miraculously, the etiquette is stronger than ever. This period is messy in more ways than one. With the country caught between warring factions and shifting shoguns, even basic public services fluctuate. Yet somehow, the bathhouses stay. They shrink, they splinter, but they survive. And you, dripping from your rinse and clutching a towel that's seen better days, are stepping into one of these survivors. Here's your mainstream historical fact during the Muromachi period. Bathhouses, called yuya, proliferated across cities like Kyoto and Nara, becoming essential hubs of daily life. Though war and famine strained resources, communal bathing persisted, offering both hygiene and a rare sense of stability. But here's the twist. Privacy starts to matter more now. Unlike the shoulder-to-shoulder soaking of earlier eras, bathhouses begin segmenting. Sliding partitions appear. Timed schedules are introduced. You'll even spot the earliest traces of gender separation. Though traces is generous, it's more like someone hung up a curtain and hoped for the best. Historians still argue whether this rise in modesty came from increased urbanization or imported cultural influences. Did exposure to Chinese Confucian ideals affect public decency norms? Or was it simply a reaction to overcrowding and, well, awkward eye contact? Whatever the reason, the bathhouse you're in has added a screen. It's thin. It wobbles when someone sneezes. But still, it's a boundary. You're no longer in a sea of anonymous bodies. You're in your section. Your little rectangle of steam-soaked dignity. That doesn't mean the place is sterile. Oh no. You notice dark stains along the tub edges, where minerals have crusted into permanent rings. A few patrons sneak in with pouches of herbs to flavor the water, lavender if they're fancy, pine needles if they're pragmatic. And you sit very still, trying not to notice the moss creeping up one corner of the bath. Quirky fringe tidbit. Some bathhouses began offering kata, incense appreciation, after bath sessions, where guests would gather in the drying area and listen to different aromatic woods, not just sniff them. Listen. Imagine that level of olfactory patience after you've just scrubbed barn mud off your ankles. The bath mat beneath your feet squishes unpleasantly as you exit. An attendant hands you a drying cloth, surprisingly clean, and points to the tea shelf, just a slab of wood with 3 chipped cups, and something vaguely green in a pot. You bow in thanks and sip. It's bitter. It's perfect. Despite the ragged conditions, people here respect the rituals. You still rinse. You still avoid splashing. And towels absolutely still stay out of the tub. You notice an elderly woman side, eyeing a teenager who let hers trail in the water. One look, and the towel is out faster than a ninja vanishing in smoke. You start to feel something odd, comfortable. Not just in your body, which is soft and warm and barely registering the moss anymore, but in your mind. These rules, these unspoken gestures, they're anchoring. When the world outside the bathhouse is burning, bathing offers a script to follow. A shared rhythm, even if the walls are warped and the water's seen better decades. And here's something you overhear, whispers about a neighboring town's bathhouse having real ceramic tiles and bamboo ladles with polished handles. Someone adds that their water is piped directly from a sacred spring. The room moves softly. It's gossip, sure, but reverent gossip. Proof that even now, bath culture is evolving. As you sit near the hearth to dry, a monk wrapped in layers of linen settles beside you. He doesn't speak. He just pours you another cup of that suspicious tea and nods toward the bath. You glance back. It's foggy, loud with soft voices, and imperfect in every way. And still, it feels holy. You leave the bathhouse with your skin flushed and your thoughts slowed. The streets outside are muddy, the roofs patched with straw and tarps. But in your chest, something steady glows. Etiquette isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline. A quiet defiance against chaos. The world sharpens again, faster, louder, and far more dangerous. You're standing in the Sengoku period now, and the air practically sizzles with tension. Welcome to Japan's age of warring states, when regional daimyo are constantly squabbling over power. Alliances shift like autumn winds, and every castle is either under siege or being built to withstand one. And yet, somehow, you're soaking in a hot spring with strangers who may or may not be trying to kill each other tomorrow. You hike toward a mountain onsen, hidden between battle-scarred provinces. It's barely marked, a wooden sign tilted at an angle, and some stacked rocks to keep out curious animals. Yet inside, it's glorious. Steam rises from a natural rock pool, rimmed with moss and bamboo. You hear laughter, gentle, cautious but real. You're not alone. 3 men already soak here. One's in lacquered armor, blade laid just out of reach but still within eyeshot. Another's in a rough peasant kimono. The third, who knows? His silence and calloused hands could belong to either class. And you're the newest member of this tense, temporary peace treaty. Here's your mainstream historical fact. During the 15th and 16th centuries, despite near constant warfare, onsen and bathhouses remained neutral ground. There are actual accounts, some exaggerated, some suspiciously poetic, of warriors sharing a soak mere hours before engaging each other in battle. Etiquette in these places wasn't just cultural, it was strategic. And why not? A bath disarms everyone. Literally. You can't exactly bring a naginata into the tub. Once clothes come off and bodies ease into the warmth, a strange honesty seeps in. You see the scars, the burns, the humanity. No one can hide in the water. You approach carefully, offering a nod, then rinse at the edge with cold spring water. Your fingers sting a little. Mountain sources are brisk even in summer, but you go through the ritual. Ladle to head, shoulders, chest, legs. Every movement matters. No one speaks, but you feel it, the approval. You did it right. You step into the bath. The water's hotter than expected, laced with sulfur and something metallic like copper coins soaked in tea. The samurai beside you nods, once. A truce, silent and steamy. Fringe tidbit time. Some onsen during this period were considered spiritually protective. Warriors bathed in them before campaigns, believing the minerals would toughen their skin or protect them from arrows. One spring was even rumored to prevent betrayal. Spoiler, it didn't. But the hope was nice. Historians still argue whether these so-called bathing truces were formal agreements or just desperate, unspoken customs. Was it chivalry, mutual exhaustion, or the simple truth that no one wants to get stabbed while naked? Whatever the case, rules still held. No splashing, no shouting. If someone bowed, you bowed back. If someone offered to share tea afterward, you accepted. Refusing was a bigger insult than stepping into the bath still muddy. One bather quietly offers you a cloth-wrapped rice ball. You nod, accept it with both hands, and eat slowly. There's a bit of pickled plum inside. Salty. Perfect. The moment is fragile, like rice paper over coals. A bird chirps outside. Somewhere, probably not far, a scout's arrow slices through the air toward someone's unlucky lieutenant. But in here, silence. Steam, civility. You feel your body sink deeper into the water, warmth tugging at every thread of tension. Someone cracks a knuckle. Another closes his eyes and exhales like he hasn't in weeks. Maybe you haven't either. This isn't about hygiene, or even etiquette, really. It's about carving a small slice of stillness from the storm. A moment where everyone agrees, perhaps only for the length of a soak, that humanity is more important than victory. You exit slowly, dry off with a towel that smells faintly of mountain herbs. No one says goodbye. That would be too much. You simply nod, and they nod back. Agreement sealed. You slip back into your robes and walk down the mountain, skin steaming, thoughts heavier. You'll remember this, not because of who you bathed with, but because of how everyone acted like it mattered. Maybe that's what etiquette really is. A choice to honor something, even when the world gives you every excuse not to. The clatter of wooden sandals on packed dirt gives way to the thrum of a city waking up. You step into the Edo period, 17th to 19th century, and Tokyo, then Edo, is bustling, really bustling. Samurai patrol the alleys, merchants haggle in rhythmic chants, and kabuki actors stroll by with the casual flair of modern pop stars. But tonight, none of that matters. Because tonight, you're headed for the Senta, the public bathhouse. And everyone's doing it. You round a corner and spot it. A tall wooden building with a curved, tiled roof and a white curtain fluttering at the entrance. It smells of cedar, charcoal, and warm minerals. The kanji above the curtain reads "Pao." You, hot water. You smile. Your feet ache. Let's do this. Inside, the bathhouse is a symphony of order. Shoes off at the entrance. Pay your fee to the attendant. Likely an elderly woman with sharper eyes than a hawk. She counts the coins without looking and waves you toward the men's entrance. The changing room is full but quiet. Robes are folded into wicker baskets. The air hums with anticipation. This is daily life. Sacred in its repetition. Here's your mainstream historical fact during the Edo period. Senta bathhouses exploded in popularity, especially in cities. They were affordable, everywhere, and open to all classes. Peasants, merchants, artisans, even the occasional incognito samurai. Hygiene became part of urban rhythm. You step into the washroom. It's hot. Not just the bath, but the air. The ceiling is low to trap heat. Walls are dark wood, aged by decades of steam. The bath itself is a large rectangular pool, with water so clear you can see the worn stone tiles beneath. But you don't head straight for it. No way. You know the drill. You head to the washing station first. Rows of little stools, wooden buckets, and ladles. No shower heads yet, but there's a trough along the wall constantly gurgling warm water. You sit, scoop, rinse. Soap isn't common yet, but there's scrubbing cloth and ash-based cleaner. If you ask nicely, you scrub everything. Neck, arms, feet, even behind your ears like a grade. School lesson stuck in your brain. Fringe tidbit time during this period. A popular woodblock print series featured comical guides to bathhouse etiquette. They included warnings like, don't sing loudly, don't stare, and, best of all, don't practice sword moves in the bath. Apparently, someone needed that reminder. Once clean, you slide into the bath. It's packed. Bodies of every shape and size, from round-bellied merchants to sinewy tofu sellers. And yet, there's harmony. No one splashes. Conversations are hushed. Even laughter is gentle, like water trickling over stone. Historians still argue whether the Edo bathhouse was more about cleanliness or community. It was definitely both. For the city's working class, it was the only place with enough hot water to truly relax. For others, it was gossip central. Think of it as a kind of steamy town hall, minus the politics and plus a lot of naked shoulders. You soak beside a carpenter who's missing 2 fingers. He nods. You nod back. Nothing more is needed. Nearby, a group of kids tries to outlast each other in the hottest corner of the bath. A brutal corner affectionately called Hell's Pocket. You avoid it. You're no hero. And here's something interesting back then. Many baths were mixed gender. That's right. Men and women bathed together. Often entire families. This wasn't scandalous. It was normal. But as cities grew and the shogunate tightened control over public morals, gender segregation began creeping in. Slowly. By the late Edo period, mixed bathing was on its way out, except in rural areas where nobody cared if you had matching towels. You finally rise from the bath, skin pink and thoughts soft. You dry off with a modest towel, not in the bath, of course, and step into the cool changing room. Someone passes you a cup of barley tea. You sip. It's nutty, calming. You feel new. The sun has set by the time you leave. The streets are still busy, but quieter. Shops close their shutters. Lanterns flicker to life. You pass a line of people waiting outside another bathhouse, laughing and chatting. Back in your room, you lie on a thin futon, body warm from the inside out. You think of how many people followed the same rituals tonight. Rinse, soak, stillness. Thousands, maybe more. All different, all the same. And for a city crammed with people, with gossip and fire risks and shogunal spies, that kind of peaceful unity feels rare. precious. You fall asleep smelling faintly of cedar and steam. Your skin is soft, your mind is quieter, and not once did anyone try to practice sword moves in your bath. You wake to the scent of ink and powdered rice. We're still in the Edo period, but deeper now, into the floating world of the late 1700s. This is the age of ukiyo, of woodblock prints and whispered poetry, of geisha and gossip, and of course, of bathhouses teetering between social hub and scandalous thrill. Tonight, your path winds not toward a humble senta, but a more theatrical establishment. You're in Yoshiwara, the famed licensed pleasure district, where the bathhouses are part spa, part salon, part social performance. You step onto narrow cobbled streets, glowing with lantern light. Somewhere nearby, a shamisen plays. The air smells of cherry blossoms and roasted chestnuts. Your towel is folded precisely. You're ready. You arrive at the bathhouse. Not the rustic cedar, walled kind, but a two-story marvel with curved eaves, painted signage, and enough light to make your shadow look important. Inside, the rules still apply. Of course they do. But the vibe? It's less meditative retreat and more steamy social mixer. Here's your mainstream historical fact by the late Edo period. Bathhouses weren't just functional, they were fashionable. Some featured private tubs, garden views, and luxurious amenities. Attendants, often women, offered massages and refreshments, and patrons paid extra for comfort, status, and occasionally flirtation. But the etiquette, still firm: rinse first. No towels in the tub. No diving, splashing, or, you guessed it, swordplay tonight. The bath is separated by time slots, gender. Specific hours are a growing trend, especially in districts like this where mixed bathing could blur into more entrepreneurial arrangements. You're here during men's hour, along with a string of merchants, entertainers, and one very tired-looking samurai whose top knot is listing dangerously to one side. You rinse carefully. This place provides soap, the real stuff, made with oil and herbs, and slip into the steaming tub. It's deeper than usual, the water almost chest high when you sit. Candles flicker in glass lanterns above, casting warm shadows on the polished wood walls. Someone starts humming a tune. No one tells him to stop. The room pulses with quiet camaraderie. Historians still argue whether mixed bathing truly declined for moral reasons, or whether it was simply a case of social control. Tightening gender norms in a growing, watchful society. Either way, by the late 1800s, public pressure sixth, and some foreign disgust helped cement more structured separation. But here's the thing, people bent the rules. In rural areas, mixed baths continued. Families bathed together. Travelers shrugged off taboos. And in places like this, Yoshiwara, social lines blurred. Etiquette, though, that stayed. Because even when morals flexed, manners didn't. Fringe tidbit for you. Some geisha used their bathhouse visits as rehearsals. Not for music, but for conversation. The bath was the perfect place to test a joke, a poetic turn of phrase, or a new technique for subtle flattery. You never know who you'll be soaking beside. As you float near the edge of the bath, a pair of merchants debate the price of rice cakes. Their tones are light, but sharp. You're learning the art of Edo politeness. Say everything you mean, but gently enough to be forgiven. The tension dissolves with a shared laugh. Steam is an excellent mediator. You dry off under a painted screen depicting Mount Fuji. A young attendant hands you a chilled cloth, wrung from lavender water. You raise an eyebrow, she shrugs. Trend from the west, she mutters. Foreign ideas are trickling in already, sneaking into even the most traditional rituals. Back in the dressing room, you sip something sweet, a rice drink with plum, and overhear a geisha practicing tongue twisters. You try one under your breath. Fail. Try again. She hears you, chuckles, and offers a correction. The moment passes, light and warm. Outside, the lanterns sway as a breeze moves through the district. You walk past shadows that may or may not be poets, past doorways lit like stage sets, until the bathhouse disappears behind you. And here's what sticks, even in a world of flirtation, performance, and layered identity, the bath still holds its own rules. Stillness, cleanliness, respect, no matter who you are, peasant, poet, or painted entertainer, you follow them. Because the moment you cross into that warm water, you leave the mask at the door. You return to your room, skin perfumed with lavender, ears ringing with soft music, and realize the strangest thing: gossip and etiquette aren't enemies. They soak in the same tub, side by side, with towels folded neatly on the bench. The world outside is shifting again. Buildings grow taller, fabrics change, and suddenly, there's a lot more brass in people's uniforms. You're stepping into the Meiji era now, late 1800s to early 1900s, and Japan is opening itself to the world. Trains scream across once silent valleys. Top knots disappear. Western suits outnumber kimono in the capital. And somewhere in the middle of this identity quake, the onsen remains. But now it has a new challenge: foreigners. You find yourself in a renovated bathhouse near Yokohama. The floors are polished, the walls freshly painted in a suspiciously European style, and there's a new sign near the entrance written in both Japanese and English. Please wash before entering. No towels in tub. You smirk. Some things never change. You glance around and notice the clientele shifted. A few locals in business attire. A Dutch diplomat. A wide-eyed American couple still wearing their shoes inside. Until the attendant nearly faints with polite horror. There's tension in the steam tonight, cultures colliding over hot water. Here's your mainstream historical fact: during the Meiji period, see 1868-1912, Japan underwent rapid westernization, transforming its infrastructure, military, education, and even public hygiene. Westerners were fascinated, and sometimes baffled, by Japanese bathing culture, often criticizing mixed bathing as indecent or primitive, despite their own less than stellar hygiene standards. You head to the wash area, now equipped with tiled floors and brass taps. Soap is plentiful, imported from Europe. Some of the regulars lather, like they're entering a foam sculpture contest. You scrub down quietly, watching the newcomers struggle. One man tries to jump directly into the tub. A local gasps. The attendant intercepts. Crisis averted. Historians still argue whether Meiji bathing reforms were about health or international reputation. On one hand, germ theory was arriving. On the other, Japan was under pressure to modernize fast, meaning westernize, and mixed bathing quickly became one of the first casualties. Fringe tidbit: some foreign visitors in the late 1800s refused to bathe with others at all, insisting on private tubs or sending their interpreters instead. In response, some onsen offered separate enclosed baths, birthplaces of today's private onsen options. You slip into the main tub, its walls lined with pale blue tiles and its floor warm underfoot. The water smells faintly of sulfur and, oddly, lemongrass. A Western import, maybe? It's a strange blend of old and new. Japanese modesty meets Victorian prudery. Eastern calm meets Western confusion. A Japanese businessman next to you sighs and mutters about etiquette erosion. His towel is folded precisely on his head, as tradition dictates. Across the bath, a German tourist dunks his towel underwater. The room stiffens. A small boy hisses, "No," under his breath. The attendant rushes in with the grace of a ninja and retrieves the offending item with tongues. You can't help but grin. The battle lines of bathhouse manners are being redrawn in real time. But here's what's beautiful: despite all this, the bath still works. It still softens shoulders, quiets minds, and creates the kind of silence that transcends language. The diplomat and the tofu vendor both close their eyes at the same time. The awkward American finally figures out the ladle system. Soap. You exit the tub, stepping onto a mat woven from hemp fibers. You dry off, quietly impressed with the soft cotton towel, another import, and sip from a porcelain cup of green tea. Even that's being blended now. Imported leaves, mixed with local herbs. East meets west in your hands. Outside the bathhouse, gas lamps flicker along cobblestone paths. You walk past new telegraph poles, horses pulling carriages, and a sign advertising a Western-style hotel with Japanese bathing. The future is here, and it's weird, but warm. You think back to the Heian poet blotting themselves dry with silk, the Kamakura warrior soaking in silence before battle, the Edo street vendor whistling through steam, and now you, in this cross-cultural hot tub of civilization. The rules are evolving, but the spirit remains, because even when the world demands change, even when critics call you backwards or strange, there's something unshakably human about sitting in hot water with strangers and quietly pretending you don't notice their elbows. You head back to your ryokan, feet clicking softly on the new stone sidewalks. The night is cooler now, but your skin radiates warmth. Your body remembers the bath, and your mind holds the hope that even in a world of shifting empires and imported etiquette, some rituals refuse to dissolve. The air thickens with city smoke and chatter. It's the early 20th century, and you've entered the Taisha period. A brief, glittering window of change between two storms. Jazz drifts from a radio. Trolleys rattle down crowded avenues. Women in kimono wear Western heels. And the bathhouse, oh, it's gotten fancy. You step into a modern bathhouse in Tokyo. At least, that's what the sign says. Inside, everything gleams. Ceramic tile mosaics on the walls, heated floors, and a reception desk with a bell that rings just a little too cheerfully. You nod to the attendant, who hands you a token and a complimentary packet of eucalyptus powder. Yes, it's that kind of place now. Here's your mainstream historical fact. During the Taisha era, 1912-1926, Japan embraced a wave of modernization and Western aesthetics. Public bathhouses, too, adapted. Cleaner, more decorative, with new attention to hygiene influenced by rising concerns about disease and health education. And with modernity comes panic. You scan a posted flyer, bathroom, hygiene, what you must know! Complete with diagrams of bacteria and a smiling cartoon microbe named Kabi Kun. You smirk. Bath etiquette is no longer just polite. It's a public health campaign. You enter the changing room. There's a mirror, a full one, where a man adjusts his mustache with military precision. Across the room, a woman in a nurse's uniform on her off hours adjusts her stockings. The bathhouse offers gender-specific entrances now, clearly labeled. Modesty has been upgraded from suggestion to architectural feature. Historians still argue whether this era's hygiene obsession came from genuine science or social pressure. Was it about improving life expectancy, or just keeping up appearances in a world where Japan wanted to be seen as equal to the West? Either way, the result is visible. Bathhouses start installing filtered water systems, disinfectant foot baths, ventilation upgrades. Signage multiplies like fungi on a damp wall. No coughing. Rinse thoroughly. Report unusual rashes to staff. Fringe tidbit. Some bathhouses employed attendants, trained in basic health checks. Early prototypes of wellness spas. They'd casually inspect patrons for lice or skin conditions, then discreetly redirect them to the special care section, which sounds ominous, but was usually just a side tub and a lot of scrubbing. You scrub at the wash station, now complete with ceramic basins and small bottles of rose-scented soap, clearly imported. Your neighbor uses a loofah that might actually be a weapon. You politely angle your body away, respecting the ever-growing bubble of personal space that defines this modern soak. Then, the tub. It's beautiful. Tiles painted with Met Fuji line one side, while the other has dolphins leaping over stylized waves. The water is perfectly clear, chlorinated just enough to tickle your nose. You step in and feel an almost electric heat. You're pretty sure this is regulated now. You exhale. Around you, a chorus of sighs. Businessmen, seamstresses, retired soldiers. A foreign journalist, maybe Canadian, reading a novel held just above the waterline. You're all different, but in here, everyone floats the same. Someone sneezes. Instant silence. He bows deeply and murmurs, "Pardon me." 3 other bathers offer reassuring nods. Crisis averted. You start to relax again. There's a quiet pride in how things are done now. In the balance between tradition and invention. and in the idea that the onsen isn't stuck in time. It evolves with grace, with eucalyptus. You exit and dry off in a side room filled with wicker chairs and wall fans. One fan creaks rhythmically, like an old man remembering jazz. You sit, sip water from a blue ceramic cup, and listen to the click of sandals outside. Then you see it, a display case near the exit. Inside, a historical timeline of bathing in Japan. Carved wooden ladles from the Edo period. A Nara-era tile fragment. A black and white photo of a Meiji diplomat awkwardly holding a towel. The bathhouse remembers its past. It doesn't abandon it. As you step outside, the city hums. A streetcar whirs past. Someone is selling roasted sweet potatoes from a cart. You glance back at the bathhouse, its curved roof gleaming under the electric lights, and feel something steady inside you. Even as everything changes, fashion, hygiene, the shape of the buildings, something old holds. A silence, a ceremony, a respect. You don't need a poster or a public campaign to know it. You lived it. Your skin smells faintly of eucalyptus and warm tile. You smile. You're ready to face the modern world. Just don't forget your towel. You blink, and suddenly the silence of warm tiles is shattered by the distant thud of boots, the rumble of trucks, and the distant whine of an air raid siren. You're in the 1940s now. World War II has arrived, and Japan is caught in its most catastrophic modern upheaval. Yet even now, amid shortages, destruction, and daily fear, the bathhouse still stands. Barely. You walk through a Tokyo neighborhood that's half rubble, half resilience. Buildings lean at odd angles. Smoke curls in the distance. But ahead, behind a simple wooden gate, is something familiar, a Senta still operating. The paint is scorched, one of the windows is cracked, but there's steam. You step inside, greeted by dim light and hushed voices. The usual amenities are missing. No eucalyptus powder, no playful signage, no tiled dolphins leaping over anything. But the water is hot, and in this world of rations and blackouts, that's nothing short of miraculous. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Even during the darkest days of WBSV, many Japanese bathhouses continued to function. Despite fuel shortages and bombing raids, communities often pooled resources to keep their local Senta running. Seeing it as a vital necessity for morale and health, you drop your belongings into a shared cubby. No locks here. And approach the washing area. There's no soap, only gritty ash powder. The water flows, but slowly rationed. You scrub quietly, beside an old man with trembling hands, and a boy no older than 10, both working with careful reverence. Everyone understands that this ritual means more now. The air is thick with steam, and something heavier, the weight of survival. Historians still argue whether these wartime bathhouses were officially supported by the government or simply tolerated. In truth, many operated on local initiative, run by families who refused to close, even when fuel was scarce or danger close. Fires from nearby raids sometimes lit the sky, but people still came to soak, to wash off soot and sorrow. Fringe tidbit: in some bombed cities, makeshift baths were created from steel drums or sun-warmed rainwater. Entire communities would line up for a turn. One account recalls a mother and daughter scrubbing each other's backs in silence as planes droned overhead. You step into the tub. The water is not as hot as usual, but it's warm enough. It wraps around your tired limbs, like a whisper of something older than fear. You sit quietly beside a man with a bandaged arm and a woman who's clearly used to ration lines. No one talks. No one needs to. A candle flickers on a nearby shelf. It's the only light in the room. You notice a sign, hand, written in charcoal. Please rinse before entering. We may lose everything, but not our manners. You smile, just a little. Etiquette in this moment feels like rebellion. A stubborn declaration that some things, some kindnesses, will not fall even when cities do. You dry off with a thin, threadbare towel. Someone hands you a cup of warm barley water. It tastes like comfort. You sit on a cracked bench beside a mother, rocking her child, who's wrapped in a kimono too big for them both. You exit into a night sky dimmed by blackout rules. No stars. No streetlights. Just the hum of silence between distant bombs. And yet you're warm. Your skin is soft. Your soul feels rinsed. The bath wasn't perfect. The water was shallow. The steam was thin. But the moment, the etiquette, flawless. Because even in war, especially in war, these small rituals matter. They remind you that you're human, that you can still offer respect, that you can still sit beside strangers in peace, even if only for 15 minutes. You step over broken cobblestones and think, strangely, of soap, of how precious it once was, of how much meaning can live in a ladle of water and a silent nod. And you vow, silently, to never skip the rinse, no matter where or when you are. The war ends not with silence, but with a roar. Cities flattened, industries halted, and a nation gasping for breath. But time doesn't pause. You're now in the early post-war years, late 1940s into the 1950s, and Japan is rebuilding itself from ashes and dust, one tile at a time. You step into a Tokyo neighborhood again, but now it hums with hammering and scaffolding. New buildings rise beside craters. Children play in alleys cleared of rubble, and nestled between the concrete, a miracle has been reborn: the bathhouse. It's modest, the kind with a single wood, burning boiler, a single staff member, and no frills. But there's steam drifting out the windows again. And a line out front. You join the crowd, salarymen, factory workers, students, grandmothers with grandchildren in tow, all waiting patiently, towels in hand, for a turn in the warmth. You clutch your token and edge closer to the entrance, past the smell of soap, cinders, and freshly poured concrete. Here's your mainstream historical fact. In post-war Japan, Senta bathhouses played a crucial role in daily life. With most homes lacking plumbing, these public facilities became vital places for cleanliness, relaxation, and communal connection. Some bathhouses were even rebuilt with materials from destroyed buildings. Inside, it's sparse but clean. New walls of unpainted cedar, buckets made of salvaged tin. The washing area has been improvised, no individual faucets, just a trough of tepid water and shared ladles. You rinse carefully, avoiding eye contact but copying the rhythm of those beside you. One ladle, two. Shoulders, arms, legs, every movement deliberate. And then the soak, it's a plain concrete tub. No dolphins, no Fuji mural, but the water is hot and honest. You ease in beside an elderly man who hums an old folk song under his breath. Across the tub, a mother coaxes her young son to sit still. Everyone is tired. Everyone is quiet. And yet, you feel something bloom in the stillness. Historians still argue whether the resilience of bath culture in this era was due to nostalgia or necessity. Perhaps both. With homes too small or too broken for private baths, scent became the evening's anchor. A place where you could scrub off the dust of rebuilding and find, for 20 minutes, a kind of peace. Fringed tidbits and bathhouses offered special evening hours for occupation troops, complete with hastily translated signage and borrowed etiquette books. While tensions lingered, many local Japanese patrons were surprised and occasionally amused at how seriously foreign soldiers tried to follow the rituals. You feel a pair of curious eyes on you. A teenager, probably 15, watching to see if you mess up. You don't. You've rinsed. Your towel is folded on your head. You didn't cannonball. He nods. A rite of passage passed. You close your eyes and lean back. The bathhouse creaks with the sound of human restoration. Breath, splash, sigh. 1,000 tiny repairs taking place inside each body. Afterward, you dress in a corner near a space heater that clicks and hisses like an annoyed cat. Someone hands you a small cup of warm milk. Yes, milk. It's become the unofficial drink of post. Bath hydration passed out to patrons by staff or purchased from vending cabinets the size of a mini fridge. It's sweet. You drink it gratefully. Outside the streets buzz again, not with war, but with ambition. Bicycles weave past noodle stalls. Radios crackle with music and news. The world feels like it's waking up. You head toward your tiny apartment, just 2 tatami mats wide, and lie down on your floor futon. The scent of cedar clings faintly to your skin. Your muscles are warm. your thoughts slow. You realize something subtle has changed. Bath etiquette is no longer about status or aesthetics. It's about community. About not ruining the one clean, calm space everyone shares. In a time when nothing else is guaranteed, that shared civility is everything. The bathhouse becomes a lighthouse. Even if your job is exhausting, even if you live in a cardboard-walled room with 3 siblings, and a mattress made of old futons stitched together, even if the world outside feels like it's daring you to quit, you can always soak. You can always rinse. You can always be polite, even if the towel you're holding has been mended twice. And so you drift off to sleep, smelling of minerals and barley, your dreams bubbling gently beneath the surface. Neon. That's your first impression of Japan in the 1980s. Neon and shoulder pads. Welcome to the bubble era, when the economy booms, ambition explodes, and bathhouses evolve from humble neighborhood havens into gleaming towers of tile, chrome, and yes, extravagance. You step out of a cab in central Osaka. It's night, but everything's glowing. Billboards flash. Pachinko parlors rattle. And right in the middle of it all is your destination, a multi-story supercenter. Imagine if a bathhouse and a department store had a particularly humid baby. You pass under the glittering archway entrance. Marble, not wood. And through automatic doors. Inside polished floors, receptionist in a smart uniform, and an LED screen showing wait times for the carbonated bath. You're not in the Edo period anymore. Here's your mainstream historical fact. During the 1980s, Japan's economic boom led to the expansion and reinvention of many traditional institutions. Bathhouses became more than functional. They were lifestyle centers. Supercenter offered multiple pools, saunas, jet baths, cold plunges, and even massage chairs and arcades. You change into a yukata printed with the facility's logo. Yes, branding has reached the bath, and walk into a locker room that smells faintly of air freshener and ambition. The walls are lined with mirrors and hair dryers. The soap is name, brand, and someone's already Instagramming a selfie by the entrance sign. But even here, the rules stand. You rinse. Oh, how you rinse. The washing station includes hot and cold taps, soap dispensers, exfoliating scrubs, and a waterproof stool that looks suspiciously ergonomic. You do the full ritual. A local beside you, middle-aged, bleached hair, gold necklace, watches approvingly. Manners are still a badge of belonging. You step into the main bath area. It's overwhelming. Multiple pools, each labeled like wine varietals. Silk jet, carbonate spa, herbal soak. One tub is illuminated from below like a nightclub dance floor. You settle into a traditional bath, just water and heat, and sigh. It's busier than the old days. People talk more. A group of salarymen chats about stock prices. Nearby, a couple of women laugh about a quiz show. And yes, it's still gender segregated. By now, that's firmly the national standard in most places. But etiquette? Holding fast, historians still argue whether this bathhouse boom helped preserve cultural identity or diluted it into a commercial product. Was it about relaxation or branding? Did the expansion of services strengthen the bathing tradition or bury it under flavored water and loyalty cards? Fringe tidbit: some luxury bathhouses offered champagne baths. Yes, real champagne. Others created sound baths, with underwater speakers playing whale calls or Mozart. One bath in Tokyo even installed a television in the sauna, because nothing says spiritual cleansing like catching the evening news while sweating out your sins. You slip into an outdoor tub, Rotenborough style, on a rooftop patio. The city stretches out beneath you. Somewhere down there, people are hustling, making deals, eating at conveyor belt sushi bars. You, however, are steaming quietly beneath the stars. It's here, strangely, that the etiquette feels most precious. With so much spectacle, you appreciate the stillness more. The shared silence, the quiet rule of don't disturb the peace. No matter how many LED lights or vending machines get added, the bath itself remains a shrine to slowness. Inside, you cool down with a glass of chilled barley tea, served in a themed cafe area. The walls are lined with retro posters. One shows a geisha with the tagline, "Tradition, but make it deluxe." You chuckle. The blend of old and new is complete. You watch as an elderly couple carefully dries off a grandchild. The child tries to cannonball into the footbath. 2 clucks of the tongue from grandma, and he's apologizing like a small diplomat. The rules are still being passed down. You leave the bathhouse through a gift shop. Yes, there's a gift shop now. It sells branded towels, bath salts, and, oddly, plush versions of the soap dispenser mascot. Outside, the city blares on indifferent. But you're not indifferent, you're warm, centered, a little pruny, and you realize the bathhouse didn't sell out. It leveled up, and it took its etiquette with it. You hear it before you see it. The rolling wheels of suitcase travelers. You're in the 2010s now, and Japan is buzzing with new voices, new faces, and a tourism boom that's rewritten the soundscape of every train station and alley. But tonight, you're not here for neon or noodles. You're here for the onsen. Again. You've taken a bullet train into the countryside, to a town where steam curls from the earth like it's sighing on your behalf. Mountains surround the village like folded arms, and every building seems built to blend into them. Welcome to globalization, where Japan's onsen culture now balances tradition, hospitality, and TripAdvisor reviews. Your ryokan host greets you with a bow and a tray of matcha. As you sip, she gently goes over the onsen rules. She's done this speech 100 times, probably more. Please rinse thoroughly before entering. No soap in the bath. No swimsuits. No diving. Then, a pause, the carefully neutral phrase. And unfortunately, tattoos are not permitted. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Despite global popularity, many Japanese onsen still maintain a ban on visible tattoos, traditionally associated with organized crime. But as tourism surged in the 2010s, debates erupted across the nation about how inclusive these customs should be. You thank the host, accept your folded yukata, and retreat to your room. It smells of tatami and cedar. You open the small sliding window and hear the sound of water somewhere below. A stream, or perhaps the bath source itself. Fringe tidbit some onsen towns began offering tattoo friendly maps during this time, highlighting which facilities welcome inked visitors. Others provided special waterproof stickers to cover tattoos, sold in vending machines with cheerful cartoon mascots. You head to the bathhouse. Part of the ryokan, it's gorgeous, minimalist. Polished river stones, an open air tub framed by bamboo, and a sliver of moon reflecting on the water. Inside, a sign in Japanese, English, Korean, and Chinese reminds all guests to shower before bathing. Please be considerate of others. You smile. The etiquette has gone multilingual. At the washing station, a traveler from Germany is nervously scrubbing his arms. Next to him, a woman from Singapore helps her partner figure out how to use the stool. You join them. No judgment. Just lather and warm water. In the bath, everyone floats in the same piece. It's quiet. Even here, even now, with tourists photographing everything else, the onsen remains free of phones, cameras, and conversations above a whisper. The water is still sacred. The silence still practiced. Historians still argue whether these etiquette shifts, tattoo rules softening, signage expanding, staff training for cultural nuance, are a compromise or an evolution. But one thing is clear, the core values haven't changed. Respect the water. Respect others. Don't splash. You close your eyes. The minerals in the water settle into your skin. A light rain starts falling on the roof, barely audible, just enough to texture the silence. You hear a gentle splash, someone entering quietly. Another nods, then closes his eyes. This bath is more than a soak. It's a translation. You see a small sign mounted near the towels. Please dry off before re-entering the locker room. Next to it, a cartoon of a dripping bather and a puddle. A light joke, but the rule holds. You dry with a thick cotton towel. The vending machine outside offers milk tea and cucumber water. You choose tea. It's sweet and comforting. In the lounge, You see a group of travelers talking softly about the etiquette. One says, "I thought it would be awkward, but it wasn't." Another adds, "I think I kind of needed that." You nod to yourself. So did everyone? As you walk back to your room, the stones of the path are still warm from the day's sun. The night air is cool. Your footsteps are soft. You glance back at the bathhouse. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't glow. It breathes. The next generation will inherit this ritual, just as you inherited it tonight. Whether they carry towels or tech, speak in Japanese or 6 other languages, the rules will stay. Because in the bath, we meet in quiet agreement here. We are gentle. The steam curls just the same. You're back in the present day, maybe 2024, maybe tomorrow, and the onsen still breathes as it always has, slow, quiet, undemanding. But the world around it, oh, it's lightning fast. People move with earbuds in. Notifications ping like distant birds. And yet here you are barefoot, holding a towel, stepping into the stillness. You're in a small town, one of the hundreds peppered across Japan, where hot water seeps naturally from the earth, and time seems to forget to rush. A Norn flutters at the entrance. Inside, soft wood, soft light, and soft voices guide you through. The shoes come off. The sigh settles in your chest, and this time you don't need a sign. You rinse without thinking. You fold the towel neatly. You bow to the attendant. Not because you're performing, because now it's in you. Here's your mainstream historical fact. In modern Japan, bathhouse etiquette is taught from childhood and reinforced by school trips, public posters, and gentle corrections. It's never about shaming, it's about belonging. You enter the washing area. Someone hums an anime theme quietly under their breath. You share a smile. You lather up with soap that smells faintly of yuzu and green tea. Even now, there's a quiet choreography to it. Scrub, rinse, glance down to avoid staring, respect the space. All around you, others do the same. Like instruments tuning together for an invisible orchestra. Fringe tidbit: one onsen recently experimented with AI, monitored etiquette, using sensors to detect improper bath behavior. Like towels in the tub or sudden splashes, and send a gentle reminder chime. It didn't last long. The regulars preferred human glares. You step into the water. It's perfect. Skin, temperature, and mind melting. You float a little. Not from buoyancy, but from release. Your shoulders soften. Your face relaxes. You hear a young child giggle as they're carefully guided by a parent through their first soak. It's like watching the torch pass. Across from you, a man with a sleeve tattoo dips his foot in. No one bats an eye. This place has adapted. Some baths now openly welcome tattoos. Some offer private soaks. Some just quietly stopped caring. Etiquette isn't about exclusion. It's about empathy. The more that idea steeps, the more timeless it becomes. Historians still argue whether modern onsen culture will survive the pressures of urbanization, climate change, and changing demographics. But in this moment, the future seems simply as long as people need quiet, warmth, and connection, there will be baths, and there will be rules, and those rules, surprisingly, will feel like a kind of love. You finish your soak and step out into the cool air. A staff member hands you a cup of mujicha, barley tea. You bow. She bows deeper. It's a spiral of respect. In the lounge, a woman reads a paperback novel while a sleepy couple dozes under a low lamp. No phones, no chatter, just peace. You wonder why people think etiquette is boring. Maybe because they've never seen how beautiful it can be when it works. Outside, the sun dips behind the mountains. Lanterns flicker. A breeze carries the scent of mineral water and pine. You walk back to your inn slowly, letting the warmth stay in your bones as long as it can. You lie down, muscles loose, eyes soft, and you think of every version of yourself who bathed before this one. The temple guest, the warrior, the poet, the traveler with the wrinkled towel. They're all part of this, and they all followed the rules. Not because they had to, but because in following, they found something worth keeping. The etiquette wasn't just about water, it was about reverence. And that, somehow never went out of style. Now, take one last deep breath. Let the final trace of steam drift past your thoughts. Feel your limbs soften, heavy with the kind of calm you only find after heat seeps deep into the bones. The bath has faded now. You're no longer in cedar rooms, or tiled halls, or mountain springs. You're just here. And here is enough. Every sound feels a little more distant now, gentler. The world is tucked under a blanket of night. Even if you're not sleeping yet, your breath knows how to slow. Inhale, hold, let go. The centuries of custom, of rinse and soak and silence, all dissolve into a quiet stillness that hovers over your chest like a soft, folded towel. And with that, the last noise from the bathhouse shuts behind its sliding door. The Norn sways once in the breeze, then stills. The water cools, but the memory, warm, steady, kind, remains. You don't need to remember every detail, just the rhythm of it, the flow, that ancient pause between exhale and peace. Carry that with you now, wherever sleep takes you. Tonight, your skin remembers the heat. Your thoughts drift like steam. And etiquette. It whispers gently that you are always welcome, as long as you rinse first. Good night, traveler.